I was going to bring up, that's one thing that I guess I've been sort of surprised at hearing some young people talk recently, the importance of cost of living. That's a really important factor to consider. You know, I'll hear somebody say, geez, I'm going to New York City and I'm making $125,000 a year. That may not fit you with the lifestyle that you'd like. You could maybe make half of that and live in a lot of other places. So that's something, again, you really need to do your homework on. And frankly, a lot of companies will help you with that, but there's a wealth of information out there on cost of living between different cities. You know, just rent. If you're living in New York, you're probably not going to have a car, but if you do have a car, the insurance is going to be astronomical. Parking, a good example, something as simple as parking. You know, you could live in Pittsburgh and park someplace for $10 a day where it's going to be $50 a day or more in New York City. So there's a lot of information out there that you should take advantage of. But again, companies, they usually will help you with that too, depending on the location.
Yep. I was moved 3 times when I worked for my first company, and each time it was a really easy conversation, honestly. It was, you know, I literally was, granted both of these places that I was living were pretty much the middle of nowhere. I was living in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and then I lived in Macon, Georgia. It's a big change to go from Macon, Georgia to New York City. Like I always felt that it was an easy conversation of like, you know, how much do I think it's going to cost to move? You know, as long as I was reasonable with my costs and so forth, like they were always very amenable. So I guess it depends upon the company. I don't really have an experience where someone it wasn't an easy conversation. Like everyone wants it to be fair. Everyone wants you to like your new location because if you like it, you'll stay. And ironically, like the cost of a new employee is so expensive. Your company wants it, you know, from a cost perspective, it needs to work for them. And it takes almost a year generally for most companies to like get back the cost of like starting someone up from the day one to actually being a productive employee and so forth. So your company wants it to be a success.
I'm working for a big company. We had different adjustments, living adjustments, depending on where we were moving people. And very nice moving packages to take care of moving expenses. If you couldn't sell a house where you were moving from, for example, the company would actually buy it from you to help facilitate your move. So there were processes in place to make this a very easy process and to make sure that when you arrived in a place that had a much higher cost of living that you got an adjustment for that.
That's probably isolated to big companies though.
Yeah.
My company did not have anything of the sort. Granted, we only had one location here in State College, but you know, we didn't have anything of the sort. So again, understand your benefits and I would also, the only other thing I would add to the cost of living discussion is understand the quality of life that you want as well. So if you're currently living somewhere and you have a 10-minute commute and you're going to move somewhere that has a higher cost of living, but you could maybe get a comparable cost apartment if you have an hour-long commute, well, you know, you should really balance out what the worth of your time is for that hour-long commute every single day versus the increased cost of living closer to the office and having a 10-minute commute. So just something to consider. I think that's a really, really important thing because even commuting costs money, right? So, you know, if you're on the train or a bus or driving a car or whatever it may be, commuting does cost money. So just something to consider the duration of your commute and the quality of life that you want to live in,